Okay, new site. Is one useful. Mhm. Hi everyone. Hi Sylvia.
Hello, hi.
Yeah, great to meet you. Yeah.
Good to meet you. Yeah, I wouldn't say in person, but online. Yes.
So it's good to have you here. So we are going to probably start while we expect others to join because we are anticipating a lot of trainees, so they will join. We wouldn't
Oh,
have to wait for them. I understand that it's night time in your place, so you need to
yes.
handle your session and prepare for another day. So we'll have to start while others join in.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, it's 10 p.m. in Sydney, so yeah, almost my bedtime. So hope
10
I
p.m.
won't put you guys to sleep. Let me just try sharing screen. Give me a sec.
Okay, so Good afternoon, everyone. So here with us, we have our facilitator for today, uh, in the person of Sylvia Wang. Did I get the pronunciation, Sylvia?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so we have Sylvia Wang here. Sylvia is a serial entrepreneur and the founder of Be Mighty, a network of founders, experts, mentors, and investors. Prior to her startup life, Sylvia has worked with a lot of corporate investment management companies. She has an MBA from INSEAD. She used to live in Singapore, Japan, France, Malaysia, and now Australia. She's passionate about supporting startups and innovation. Sylvia mentors startups at Techstars and Founder Institute. She's an advisor at Loyal VC. Please, everyone, join me in welcoming Sylvia. So, Sylvia, you have the floor now.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, just
Have you?
let me test sharing screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, you can see your screen. So, please, everyone, if you can see your screen, please indicate in the chat box.
Hold on, just gonna move the awesome. Yeah, okay. So I'm just gonna get started. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me here. It's always a joy to connect with other founders as I've been on this journey for quite a while now, and it never fails to energize me to be around other startups, other founders, and all the other members of the ecosystem supporting this very hard but rewarding work that we're all doing. So just some background about myself. So today we're going to talk about startup operation management for success. And so we'll run through some an overview of myself, the operations roadmaps, pitfalls, the different stages that you can expect as you bring your idea from idea to an investable business ultimately. And we'll have some time for Q&A as well, but feel free to just pop your questions or comments in the chat, and I'll just check as we go along. So I'll try to answer any questions that comes up. Yeah. And yeah, so just a bit about myself. So I was formerly in investment management in my corporate life, and I left corporate 7 years ago. I actually became a full-time entrepreneur, and I've always been in the startup world. And yeah, I've been a 5-time serial entrepreneur, and my last fintech, we basically scaled to Series B in 2 years, and I've also have experience of scaling startups as a co-founder from the initial like zero idea stage to 80 staff in 2 years, and I've also ran like a social media agency, e-commerce store, been involved in various sectors as well throughout my entrepreneurial lives and helping different startups, and yeah, so just to give an overview. So just to jump into it, like in the early days of your startup, like the founders are like the chief everything officer of your business. So basically you're bootstrapping through the valley of death until there's sufficient income or investment. You sometimes on the same day you have to be the head of sales, you have to be the CTO, or you have to be the CFO, and other days you have to be the ops person. Like there's lots of things that you're juggling through every day, and you're not really the expert of everything, even if you want to do it all. Sometimes it's just not possible, and there's not enough hours in a day anyway. So today we're really gonna walk through the different stages, from idea to product to traction, and ultimately growth and scale. So I would focus heavily on the first three stages: the idea, product, and traction, because if you can get through these three stages, where the valley of death tend to happen, um, which is which describes this phase where you're still getting your product or business off the ground, but money is running low and traction is not fully happening yet, and you're not getting investment in order to have enough funding to keep the business going. So this is the part where most startups basically just fail to survive. And once you can get through from idea to product to traction, there's a good chance that by the time you get to growth, when you commercialize the business, you might be able to afford people who can help you to take care of what's needed at the growth or scaling stage, stage 5. Or even if you may not have sufficient money to hire someone, you would have built an attractive enough business if you manage to get to that point, where there will be people who will be willing to do this not for free but for equity. So these are just some ways that down the road, if you can manage to get through the first 3 stage until growth, like you have significantly de-risked the process. So let's go into it. And this really good book to read, 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. So I'd like to share about some common pitfalls when operating through the different stages, from getting from idea to an investable business when you have limited resources. So this is something that I see a lot across like different startups, and even for very experienced founders, we still find ourselves, I don't know, like committing this terrible mistakes or pitfalls. So it's something that needs a lot of practice, and sometimes common sense is not common practice. So just want to bring them up here, what the common pitfalls are that I constantly see. So one is definitely trying to do too much too early. So quite often, if the founder has already other work experience before starting the startups, what often is, especially if they come from corporate, they almost try to build this perfect business for their startup, when it's not quite possible when they are just a team of 1 or a team of 2 with 2 co-founders. So and also another thing I see often is trying to scale the business even before achieving product market fit. So product market fit refers to the point where you can predictably like scale the business, and with just the amount of that you're putting in, be it like advertising or cost, like whatever you put in, that you can sustainably scale it, where you don't feel like you're pushing a rock uphill. So you will know that when it happens, the momentum just comes. Like you're not trying to push very hard for sales. Like the customers are wanting it. It's word of mouth happening. So until you actually reach that precious point in your business, it's probably best not to scale. So quite often I see founders trying to rush to this stage of like, oh, I seem to have positive response from my customers, so this is the time to build more tech or to expand the marketing team. It may not be the case yet, so you may have to wait just a little bit longer till you have more data to show that what you have is actually reliable and sustainable for long-term growth. And so that's one part. And then the other part is aiming for perfection and not letting fires burn. So it's really important at different points of the business to know that sometimes you just have to let certain fires burn away, and because you can't attend to every fire that happens. So you have to decide what you will prioritize and what you will get right and do very well, and what you just have to accept is not going to be the most ideal. And that's something that many founders have to deal with, to let go of their need for perfection and actually just go for good enough is good enough. Yeah. And and the third part is definitely having the wrong hires or wrong people on the bus, or having the right people in the team but in the wrong seat, so given the wrong type of roles. And sometimes it's hard to tell until you have the team members trying out the different tasks, and you might surprise yourself that someone has some kind of like hidden skills that you don't know of. So it's still good to be experimental, but it's important to manage expectations that if people are not delivering, there's a chance that they might need to swap responsibilities, or they may not be the right fit for the business. So these are expectations management that's really important to get right early on in the business. And another common operational pitfall that I see is not hiring fast enough. And that's often also because, back to the point of the founders wearing multiple hats in my previous slide, in this slide, where the founders wearing multiple hats. Sometimes founders are not hiring fast enough, not because they don't want to, but because they don't know how to. They are not HR experts. So that's also one of the reasons that caused the slow hiring or the delay in hiring. And the other is back to the first point of like trying to scale too fast. There's a natural tendency to go, oh, I see someone's experience is very impressive, so perhaps this is a great person for my startup. Quite often, the person with a very impressive corporate experience might be more suitable for bringing onto the team at a later stage of the business rather than right at the very early stage. So that it could be just a matter of staggering who you bring onto the business, so you don't bring on someone that's too senior too soon. So really look at the stage of the business. And another part is thinking that investor funding and having the investor backing, like a branding on your startup will solve everything. That's that can't be further from the truth, because funding can solve a lot of things, but it definitely doesn't solve everything. And what I often see is founders looking for investor funding, they tend to fall into a mindset of almost starting to think like an employee again. They're like, oh, if I just have this funding, then I have more time to hire people to do the work. If you are looking to delegate everything out, you might not have the right skill set for this business idea in the first place. So quite often, very early days, you need to be like really lean. And if you are relying on investor funding to help you grow the business, is quite likely you're almost looking for a job. So think that as the founder, you are the very first investor of your business. You are taking your time, your effort, your resources you're putting into your business, so you are the very first investor of your business, and see it that way. And another common pitfall I see when operating through the different startup stages is definitely not watching cash flow close enough and how much runway you have left. So cash is definitely king. So if you are not watching and you run out of cash, quite often you will have to pause the business or even like stop the business completely. So I've definitely seen even businesses that are doing well have to stop just because they ran out of cash. So definitely cash is king, and that's something you want to track really regularly, as regularly as weekly, if you are at a point where expenses are unpredictable. So let's jump into stage one. So the operation and priorities during the idea phase. So during this phase of your startup where you're developing the idea, this is really important to focus on maybe in your head you might be thinking a lot of things. Well, should I get a co-founder? Should I trademark my business? Should I talk to investors? Like, all of these are common thoughts that come to founders at this point. But really, if you don't have a solid idea, all of that like wouldn't matter. So it's really important to focus on the most important thing first, and that would be getting your market research right, and also your user survey and interviews. So user surveys in this case, I meant in here like 30 to 100. They can be online forms that you get people to fill up. And why you need a larger number is because unlike in-person interviews, be it online or where you actually talk to the users, you can't tell the emotions or the nuance so in a form. So ideally, if you can't talk to the user itself, then collect more survey results. If you can talk to the users, maybe you need less than that. And then another part of this is rather than jump straight into developing your technology, which is what a lot of founders frequently do. Oh, I have an idea, I'm going to build my tech now. So start with just the mock-up If you're not familiar with Figma, you can even mock everything up through Canva, just to be able to visually present to people and get some feedback. So that's really important. You might realize this dream idea that you have, perhaps you may be the only one that's really in love with it, and that happens all the time with founders. So it's not uncommon. And some good operational habits and activities to start at this point is definitely to start documenting, so all the user feedback that you receive, it's not just for your own analysis, but when you start having investor conversations, they're gonna ask you about, like, what was the feedback from the users, and you need to be able to show what the feedback were, and also just start having the habit of saving your documents on cloud. And another thing, which a lot of founders tend to delay until it's too late, is marketing. So it doesn't mean that you have to put a lot of effort on marketing, but it does mean that it's good to get started early. You can just start having a bit of posts. It may not even be I don't know, posting 5 times a week. It could be posting once or twice a week, and that could even be just resharing an article or something online that doesn't even have to be created by yourself. So the whole purpose is to start building your brand and your audience on social media. So by the time you're ready to actively market your startup, you have already built up some kind of a brand and audience, because that takes time to build. So it's good to, at this point, to just start doing it really lightly. Yeah, it doesn't have to be super active, but get started. It will make a really big difference down the road. And another thing is just start a habit of budgeting and tracking your expenses, or potentially as often as weekly, just to get into the routine. So you can track any unexpected expenses, especially if this is the first time you're running this specific type of business, and there'll be expenses that come up that you didn't predict or project, or so this is really good hygiene to do. And very often, as the founder during this phase, the business, you're the only one the business can count on. So until you can hire someone, you will have to somehow find someone who has these skills, or you have to develop these skills yourself. So here are some of the skills and competencies to have or develop during this phase. And a big part is definitely your market research, analysis, being systematic in running a user survey and interview, and also just being really resourceful in finding ways to interview your target market at zero or no cost. Because if you were to engage a market research agency to run these surveys for you, it's going to cost a lot, like a lot. Yes. So if you can find creative ways to interview your target market at low or no cost, that will really significantly help. And that's also why a lot of founders tend to work on ideas where they already have existing network, because then they can do all this survey without engaging help, and also they themselves would also deeply understand this market. And another part is also like being able to be comfortable to to mock up the design so you can show to people and get a sense. So there's a lot of online resources out there that's free, that you can learn how to do user survey. And Y Combinator or their YouTube channel definitely has a lot of these videos. Definitely check them out. Yeah. And so during this phase, it's really important to look at what you have been spending your focus and energy on. If you find that you are maybe like spending a lot of time talking to investors when you should be developing a product, or you're spending a lot of time doing social media posting when you should be developing a product, or even finding a co-founder. Until you have the right idea, you may not have the right co-founder as well. It can be too soon. So it's really important to, at each point, focus on the right pillar of the business rather than on a different pillar, or across too many pillars of the business. So during this idea phase, the jobs to be done, like the first part is definitely to develop your idea and also gauge customer and investor interest and design the product. So why I put gauging investor interest here is because quite a lot of times founders go, oh, I have this idea and there's a lot of customer interest in it. I'm personally passionate about it. I'm just going to go build it. And as they start to build it or they have the product built, they realize, oh, this is just an area that investors are generally not very interested in. So this is not going to be a venture backable business. It's not going to be, or even an angel investable business. So quite early on, you want to decide what kind of a startup you want. Do you want it to be venture back or just backed by angels? Maybe it will be less intense, or angel syndicate and family offices. So that will really determine the type of startup you're going to build. And having customer interest is one thing, but depending on the type of business you want to build, you want to gauge if there's also investor interest if you want to build a venture backable business. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And the other is during this phase, like if you already have the product idea, is to really start thinking about like where can you find the right co-founder, the right technical partner if you're not the technical founder. Finding the right person, sometimes it could be like an agency or sometimes it could be like a co-founder is important, but also agreeing on the terms so that it will not lead to a dispute or fallout. Many startups end up breaking up during the first year because of co-founders fallout, because they couldn't agree on the terms or they couldn't find a way to work well together. So it's things that you want to make sure you get right at the very beginning. Yeah. And the other part is before you rush into like the next phase, like of building your product, is really to audit your idea and to assess like okay, like are you the right founder for building this product, or is this does the market need it, like so assessing the size of the opportunity, and whether there's founder product market fit before you rush into building the product. So just a quick one, like so, like here's an overview of how you can. This is not quite on operations, but I thought it's really important to cover this, even if it's just briefly. Is before you rush into working on your product, definitely like audit your idea for its potential and viability. Like, why is the market size really big enough to be attractive to investors? And are you the best founder or the founding team to take on this idea and problem space? So that's definitely something to look at. And also, why now? Like, is this the right time to address this problem? And another part is on one hand, like quite often founders would have ideas on optimizing something that already exists in the market, and they go, oh, my solution is going to be 10 times better, and that could be totally true. They could have a really brilliant solution, but what tends to happen is customers still have huge friction in adopting a new solution. So sometimes even if you have a fantastic product idea, if the friction for your customers to switch is too big, like you might end up just not having your startup take off just because there's too much barrier. And that's something that I see happen a lot, which I'll cover later on the traction stage of operations. And the other part is ease of execution. Like, can you execute it quickly and affordably? That's something that's really important to think about, and that goes back to your founder skill set and expertise and network. Are you the best founder to actually execute this quickly, affordably, and expertly? Yeah. And the next thing is also just auditing the idea for how defensible it is from competition and in changes in technology, regulation, environment, economic, and social landscape. So this is something that you want to have in mind before actually going to build your product. So the next phase of operational priorities, when you start moving from idea to building your prototype, your MVP, your initial alpha, beta release. So the key focus of this phase is definitely tech development, because moving from idea to tech, and very often this is the point where investors are going to look at the founder and think like, well, this founder can sell like a grand idea, a very compelling vision, but if they can't execute and manage a tech team and turn this great idea into actual technical solution that actually help the target market they have in mind, then no great idea is useful. So definitely at this point, like it's really important to bring on the right technical co-founder or partner, technical agency to help you build this, or if you can build this yourself, that's even better. And the most important thing at this point is also to really build a scrappy version, even something that's quite far from the final thing. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to somehow give your target market an idea of how the solution will work, and that's sufficient. And yeah, definitely you can see the book recommendation here, The Lean Startup. It's definitely a great book to read. And yeah, so definitely in this phase, like try to get a scrappy version out, like test it. Testing is really important, because yeah, if you didn't test it and your users started using it and have a bad experience, they're not going to come back. And then you have to find users to help with the beta from alpha to beta testing. So it's going to be quite hard to find new users all the time. So ideally, you want to do as much testing yourself as possible and fix it before you alpha release it. And as you alpha release it, collect the user feedback and start incorporating into the beta release. So in terms of pitfalls to avoid at this point, it's definitely you're gonna start receiving feedback from your alpha users or beta users, and sometimes they can get really passionate because they love your solution. But it's really important that when those feedback come back, like because you are offering them to alpha test or beta test for free until they have become a paying customer, it's hard to know whether when they become a paying customer, whether the expectations will change. So if they tell you like, oh, all these are like feedback is really important for you to implement, take that with a pinch of salt as well. Like you will only know the truth when you are working with actual paying customers. So don't rush into taking all that feedback and go into like another rabbit hole of tech development. That's something I see founders get caught up in. This is the deepest, almost the deepest phase of the valley of death, where founders just keep going in loops of constant tech development because they're getting all this feedback or just their own personal desire, which is going to the point 2 of the pitfalls, is trying to build this super app that caters to everyone. You can't be Facebook overnight, but find that star feature that's really going to attract like your core users or your super users, and you can over time build up the capability of your app. But in the beginning, just really find what's that star feature that you want to double down on, and the rest will just have to be deprioritized until you can actually have a bigger team to make that happen. Another part of the pitfalls is definitely for a lot of us being overly attached to the personal vision of the product. So it's great to have like a product vision that's really compelling and attractive, but ultimately you want to listen to the market because they are the ones who's going to pay for your product. So it's really important that even if you're someone who has an experience of the product, as someone who has experienced the pain point, remember that you are only one specific type of user profile. If you want to ultimately service or address a big enough market, you will come across multiple user profiles, and there will be profiles that's not like you. And so your version of the product may not be sufficient, and if you hold on too tightly, you might end up missing the market. Just have a quick look on the chat. Sylvia Hong. No, not related to Anna Huang. Just a quick one on Sylvia Huang. So actually, my name, just a side note, like Huang actually means yellow in Chinese. Right? That's a small like, and then tidbit. Okay, and then so so the key skills and competencies to have during the product phase and activities to start. So during this term, yeah, back to the HR skills, like it's really important for you to be able to, as the founder, to scout and recruit the right kind of help, be it co-founder, founding team members, to help you build your business, and then yeah, getting into the negotiations, and also making sure that whatever you end up agreeing on it will be something that you're happy with down the road, and also your co-founders or the founding team members are actually motivated, like so that's really important. And there's also another part on like managing the development team to get from idea to tech. So this is something that investors watch for a lot, is that, oh, as the founder you have this great idea, but can you actually turn that idea into tech? That's the first thing. Actually, that's the second thing they want to de-risk. So the first thing is the idea. When you go from idea to market research, have you proven and de-risked that the market actually is responding positively to that idea? So that's the first de-risk. And the next area de-risk that investors look at is, okay, now that you have validated and researched that idea, that the market seems to be wanting it, can you then turn it into tech? And that could mean you building it yourself, or you finding the right help on the right financial terms for it, or managing the team. And quite often I see also during this phase is project management. A lot of founders are maybe more the creative type and visionary, and the project management may not be their strong suit, and that's something you have to develop a skill set in. Because what can happen is, if you keep adding features because your beta users or your alpha users are telling you, oh, they want more features, you keep adding, and your project will never finish. You'll never come off this phase, and you end up not just losing time, but also any like savings that you've put into it, or any like angel money that you have raised to build this product. So definitely project management during this phase is really important. And another operational piece that is often overlooked and really vital is the alpha and beta testing. So quite often working with developers doesn't mean that they will help you test. Like you can agree with the agencies or for them to do the testing for you, but usually that's then another separate service that you have to pay for. So if you're trying to save on that, then you have to be really systematic in how you alpha and beta test your platform, and that goes back to project management. You really have to test through every scenario and be really rigorous about it. So that's something that's also like a skill or ability that you really need to develop during this phase, if this is something that you've never done before. And also like as you start to work towards the alpha or beta release, you want to think about, like, in terms of activities to start is investor conversations. Not because you're going to raise money right away, it's because investors invest in lines, not dots. So they want to get to know you today. Like 3 months ago you mentioned you have this idea, and then 3 months now you have now did your market research, you have now assembled a team, you're going to start building the tech, and then 3 months later they're going to go, oh, your tech is your prototype or MVP is ready. And they want to keep connecting the dots to show that you have consistently delivered. And so you want to, at each point, keep having these investor conversations so you can help them to remember that you have consistently delivered. So that's really important. And also, yeah, a good hygiene to her operation hygiene at this point is really, because you're going to start having a team working on your idea. So it's no longer just you or you and your co-founder. So definitely you want to start establishing a baseline cybersecurity measures. This is really critical, especially if you are working on any kind of like a fintech product or insurtech. Yeah, definitely that's really critical. Oh, I actually have a guide that you can access here, best tech practices for non-tech founders. It's like a cheat sheet for you to look at. And also at this point, once you start having your product almost ready, you have to start putting on your marketing hat again. So you have to start thinking of how do you start market your product to your target market. And so this is something to look at. So jobs to be done at this point, yes, you're still really like fully focused on your product and tech, but you have to start thinking about your sales and marketing, your customer acquisition, and also your recruitment. You need to start thinking about how to attract more founding team members. They could be interns, they could be advisors, so you want to start having those conversations already, once you start having your product almost ready at alpha or beta release, when you can have something to show. And this is when you want to start having recruitment conversations of advisors, interns, founding team members, investors, and also start thinking how are you going to actually put this out in market, getting your messaging right. Because if you're building something innovative, which most startups try to do, that means it most likely doesn't exist yet or doesn't quite exist. And that means people can't quite imagine what it will be or how it will look like. So you need to become really good at helping your target market or investors that's not familiar with this space imagine what your solution is and can do. So your product marketing and the sales messaging has to become really good. So you need to start thinking as you come out of your alpha and beta release phase, when you have your prototype or MVP ready, start putting on your marketing and product marketing hat. And then start thinking of how would you go to market and build the capability for it, right? Are you expanding through partnerships? Do you have the right relationships? Do you have the right branding for it? Do you have the right processes for it, the right expertise and the right person in the team to do it? All of these you need to start the mapping out the strategies and build your capability to make that happen. And another part is definitely to continue to maintain light investor relations. Be mindful that as from the idea phase to the MVP phase, you will have investors feedback that could be quite passionate and strong. And it's still important at this point to still take it with a pinch of salt, because until you're really out in the market with paying customers and businesses have been operating for a while, what the feedback that investors give at this point is often what they project could potentially happen based on what they've seen to this point. No one really knows how things will ultimately be. So you want to be mindful that you want to take on the advice when investors tell you to maybe make a big pivot or stay away from something, that you want to really seriously consider that, because they have seen so many startups over the years, and they have seen how the ones that work, the ones that didn't work, and why it worked and when it didn't work. So you really want to take the advice seriously, but at the same time, you also want to ultimately test it against the market and let the market show you what they really want and be willing to pay for. And even investors will once you have moved from the product to traction phase, which is the next stage, will change their opinion once they see the market responding differently. So don't rush into going back to the product development and change everything again, and then you always stay in the tech development phase and never come out of it. And that's where you almost you run out of cash and not survive the value of death. So the third stage of this phase, which is really critical, if you can really get through this phase, there's a good chance that you escape the valley of death. So the goal of this phase is really to prove that your product really is is demanded by the market, like the market really wants it. So you want to prove that the market wants it, and the more the customers can show in terms of the number of customers, like contracts, or you have also delivered results for your customers. You have case studies of different use cases or testimonials of happy customers. The more you can create like success examples, the better. And also another form of market validation that's not necessarily customers is actually partnerships. So if you can attract established companies who wants to be your partner, this is also a sign to customers, to investors that oh, there must be something, I don't know, like attractive or so legit or solid about this startup, and therefore this is also a signal that this startup has more like substance than I don't know, a typical like young company. So this is something that your partnerships is really great for validation. And also through partnerships, you're gonna quite often you get to leverage their brand, their credibility, their network for distribution. So this is a way to grow really quickly, but be careful of that as well, because with partnerships they can take a long time to form, or the partners being more established than your startup might have expectations that you tailor your solution to suit their business, and that might end up being like, yeah, you might end up having a business that's not as or a solution that's not very scalable because you have tailored your solution to suit them, and that doesn't quite suit the other partners. So you want to be mindful that you're getting the right kind of partnerships where you're not over tailoring to the point where you almost are operating like an agency rather than a startup that is truly scalable. And other forms of traction will be interest from the target market. So the number of these are more like, well, I wouldn't say like a vanity metrics, because it is still ultimately a funnel, like and they are very top of the funnel type of numbers that show you how much interest you can get. So like, yeah, the social media followers, the number of newsletter sign up or waiting list signups, the number of unique site visitors, all of these are signs of interest from the market. But until someone becomes a active paying customer that return and refer, yeah, you have not completely de-risk your product idea yet. So that's the traction you want to achieve, is to have active sticky users that return and refer. And ultimately, yeah, so during this phase, the activities to start and ramp up is definitely to start recruiting interns, advisors. You want to start expanding the team as you build up traction, and definitely like to invest time in marketing and branding. It will go a really long way, especially for not just attracting customers or users, like it's also established partners. Quite often established brands like to partner up with like a young up and coming like a startup with a strong like attractive brand. So investing in branding definitely help a lot. And that's also, as you start having product out in the market as well as traction, you definitely want to start working towards yeah, your race, if that's something that you wanted to do, like so investing time in your investor relations. So yeah, there are multiple skills. I wouldn't go through into all of these skills, but then like as you can see across, like these are things that whenever you feel stuck at this point of your startup journey or founder journey, most likely you are missing these specific skills to make certain things happen. Like, yeah, you need to be strong in social media or online marketing. You need to be really persuasive to sell your vision to potential customers. You need to be able to close deals, really have a tight process to convert lead into customers or partners or referrals. Yeah, just need to be like really strong in your execution and delivery, acquiring partners. And also this is a time you need to really start actively engage your investors. So you need to be really aware of like how to manage investor relations, all the things you need to know for fundraising as a startup. These are things that you need to skill up on, and then you start to build out your team. In the beginning, it's just a team of like maybe like part-timers or contractors, but over time, like but even that, like, is really important to know how to manage them. And yeah, definitely financial management, that's very critical. And yeah, so a good thing to read, if you're, especially if you're building a network effect type of business, is definitely called the book, The Cold Start Problem. Yeah, even if you're not building a network effect type of business, it's still a really good book to read. I'll highly recommend that. And so this, I would call, like, this is most likely like one of the last, like, final stage of the before getting out of the valley of death. Like, so if you can get traction, you will most likely attract at least angel investment to help you sustain the next phase of the business, and to expand the team, to invest in tech, to invest in user or customer acquisition. So really at this point is to ramp up on your traction as well, your sales, marketing, partnership, customer acquisition, and to start building your brand to attract, and also still continue to maintain your product and tech delivery, so that you don't attract customers and partners and then they churn because you're unable to deliver what you have promised. So this is a really an important phase to keep ramping up. And something that's really important in this traction building phase is not just actually right from the very beginning, from the idea to product, to building your product, to building your traction. What investors often look at is how quickly can you get from each stage. um, yeah, so because when they get the chance to invest across different business, they will look, oh, this startup has consistently just on the way up, like move from stage 1 to stage 2 like within 2 months, 3 months, or and the other startup maybe took 9 months. So obviously every business is different, but the more you can just consistently and speedily move towards the next stage and keep delivering the milestones, that definitely will help give investor a lot of confidence that you're strong in your execution. Yeah, but despite even with that pressure to deliver that like upward curve, is you want to make sure that you're not compromising on or anything that's important, because you want ultimately to build something that's sustainable as well. So keep that in mind, the upward curve, but also of growth, but also like you want to be sustainable ultimately. So these three key stages are really critical. That's why I spend more time on that. But the last two stages, they are really important as well. But if you can get through to the traction phase, like I was sharing earlier in on this call, is that if you can get through the initial phase and build the get from idea to product to traction, you will most likely be able to attract talents that's willing to help out, be it for sweat equity or or you can attract angel investing in order to help you get through this next phase. So that's really if you can get to traction, that's definitely a huge turning point that can happen for your business. So if you can, so the next part of this growth phase is once you have enough traction, is to start commercializing. Yeah, so, and to start building the team. So until you have sufficient revenue through your initial customers or investment to automate your tech or to further develop your tech, you have to, what do you call it, flintstoning. Yeah, basically you have to have part of your product or solution automated, and because you can't afford to automate everything, be it due to time or money, you have to then on the back end like manually process to make sure that it comes across to your customers, that it feels like it's a fully automated process. So that's something that a lot of startups have to juggle with right at the very early days. Yeah, it's painful, but it also helps you to really understand like the operations roadmap, and it's a good thing to not automate too soon, because until you achieve product market fit, you may change your business a lot. So you don't want to spend too much time, just like you don't want to spend too much time over developing your tech product. You don't want to spend too much time trying to automate your operations, because your business might change and you might need a different set of processes to suit that. So even though doing things manual is painful, it is ultimately a better way, to make sure that you're just manual enough for long enough time and before you automate. And so this part is like the top priority is definitely to commercialize. So a lot of founders think that if they can just get like some revenue, and it's like a huge amount, then that's a great thing. That means they're definitely investable. It's not necessarily the case. Quite often, like, their investors will want to see that the revenue is actually recurring and it's sticky, like so they know that it's not something that's like a one-time thing and won't happen again. They want a predictable and sustainable machine of revenue generation. So it's important that as you start to commercialize your business, that it is done in a way that it is recurring and predictable, and sustainable. And during this phase, as you start to continue to commercialize the business, is definitely to expand the team and to keep building the capacity to sustain your competitive edge, or your moat, or defensibility against competition. So one of the pitfalls to watch for is definitely to keep watching your burn. Like, quite often, startups get through this phase and they get really excited and with all the traction they have built, and they're like, oh, this is the time to just grow like crazy. What could happen is they could also run out of cash and have to stop operating. And so it's really important to continue to keep watching your runway, and your burn rate. And also at this phase is also a lot of startups at stage 3 where they had traction, is they tend to then go like over focusing on fundraising. The thing is, if you keep building your traction and commercialization, and build a really attractive and solid business, you'll find that your fundraising conversation becomes a lot more straightforward, because you have significantly de-risk for the investor. So rather than having lots of conversation and relationship management to reassure them that you are the right founder to back, or your startup is the right startup to back, maybe make sure that you should use that time to build even more traction and commercialization. And the other is definitely not expanding the team or delegating fast enough, or not setting up the system processes or the team rhythm, like a cadence for success. So this is really important. And I highly recommend reading this book, The Hard Thing About Hard Things. Like, I wish I've read it a lot earlier, and it would have saved me a lot of sleepless nights. So if you can, please try to read this now, or as soon as you can. So it's definitely a lot of wisdom in this book. And definitely check it out. And and here's like just some version. Something I do want to point out is, in this point when you start to have your first 10 hires, it's really important that your first 10 hires can set the tone for your next 100 hires or employees in the business. So don't think that just because you're a small company at this point that your culture is not important. It is really important. It will set the tone for your startup. So the operational pillars during this growth phase is really to get ready for scale. You need to start systemizing things and start optimizing what are the core activities, and having the right people in the right seats, and also constantly managing expectations for people that their roles might change as the business continue to grow. So expectation management is really important, because it can get quite sensitive, especially if people are not prepared for it. And definitely double down on what works. So the thing is, if you start to have product market fit, the crazy thing is, you start to get a lot of demand, and you almost have to prioritize what works best rather than what works well. Like you're going to start to see a lot of positive signals from everywhere. So it's really important for you to stay incredibly focused, and not be attracted by too many like shiny objects. So then that's that. And yeah, the last phase, the scale phase, is continue to penetrate the market even more and expand internationally, and to expand into existing market, new market. Look at ways to reduce your churn rate, your customer acquisition costs, and how you can shorten the sales cycle, and how you can increase the lifetime value of each customer. That's definitely like some of the matrix that to look at, and also keep thinking how you can just stay defensible against competition, and to keep watching that you have sufficient runway for the next 18 to 24 months as you grow your business. So some pitfalls to avoid is someone once gave me this thing about like being a caterpillar. It's like when you grow, you need to like expand and then contract, expand and then contract. So you need to like kind of like consolidate your growth regularly. There will be times where you find it because you have product market fit, it is getting exponential growth, but then you have to then consolidate internally to make sure you have the right systems, your people are trained, you're hiring for future growth, and you're automating. So all of these things have to be done regularly. You almost have to have a little pause to put a team back, because you can get stretched too thin, and then ultimately that will lead to failure. So you want to avoid that. And also like a lot of pitfalls is startups get very excited with the traction they get with the market. They tend to then ramp up on more sales and marketing, but really this is a time you really want to be investing in the people and culture of your company, because they are the ones who are going to carry your business to the next level, or to the moon and beyond. So, and also to invest in the tech development and automation. So definitely like this is a time where you want to start investing in even more, be it your focus or energy and resources into these areas of your business, not just marketing or to get even more customers, yeah. And then one is this is also the point you start to attract like C-suite or like high profile like hires, and you want to make sure that you bring the right people on board, so that's definitely one really critical phase. So at this point you start to see that the different parts of your business starts to become full. You start to run more like a real like proper company. So this is the point where you really start to solidify your structure, your culture, your systems, your legal and compliance, your risk, and and you continue to prioritize customer and staff acquisition and retention, and also watching your runway, and continue to invest in tech for scaling and security. So I'm done. Oh, actually, just almost on time. But I do have one quick one. So this is something that's really important: the tech stack. So as much as possible, try to use different like software to automate or to organize your day-to-day. But that's it. So these are some like popular softwares that people use for or startups founder use for internal communication with their customers, or to manage their tasks, to create their assets, for productivity. So most startups at the early stage will not use more than three or four of these softwares, because the more softwares you use, the more you have to manage, and the more you have to get everyone to use across these. So yeah, pick like a 3 to 4 maximum that you will regularly use, and yeah, just start to automate all your processes. And so that's it. Thanks for any questions. Can we get a slide? Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll share the slides. I can see Abbas. Yeah. Oh yeah, I saw your hands. Oh yeah, yes, definitely can get the slides. Is there any questions or any like challenges that
Hello.
share?
Hello.
Hi.
Good good afternoon from Nigeria. I don't know your side.
Hi, good evening or good night from Sydney. Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the presentation. It's wonderful.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Here's my first question.
Mm.
So during the development with with your co-founder, so can we agree or can we talk about equity sharing, like the terms with your co-founder during development, or should you wait until launching or
Mhm.
secure fund?
Mhm. Launching of secure fund.
Eh,
So so on the first part on like equity share, so if you are both at the the earliest part, right, like of like you start the idea together quite often, then yeah, it's often like 50-50, like you just work on that together, but if you started working on your idea first and your co-founder come on later, then that's kind of more unique situation where that's totally like case by case, like, yeah.
like you have started working on the product before your co-founder join you. So
Hmm.
so to do we need to agree on equity before we
uh
move
y-
on?
y- yes, you want to agree, yeah, you want to agree on equity, yeah, as early as possible, and the thing is, yeah, I think like quite often what typically happens is the person with the idea that has already started working on it tend to feel, oh, but I have already like worked on this for so long, and then this person is just coming on now, so I want a lot more of the equity. So what tend to happen is this could significantly demotivate the other person. Obviously it depends as well on the person, but quite often the other person will come on and feel like, oh, I'm just like a minority, like, shareholder. So on one hand, as the person with the idea, you may feel like I don't want to give away too much, but on the other hand, yeah, you have to take into account that ultimately you want the person to feel motivated to work on the business. So definitely that's something to think of. And also you will, like, even if you've been working on this for like let's say I don't know, for a year or 2 years, for example, or 6 months, or 3 months, like if this idea takes off, it's going to be at least the next 10 years of your life together, so even longer than some marriages somehow. Like, yeah, so take
Okay,
the overall like time into perspective. Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Here's my
Yeah.
second question. What is simple NDA can you recommend for startup?
Simple, sorry, NDA. Oh,
NDA.
yeah, so it's interesting. I'm not sure internationally how it works, but in Australia, but I think that's also quite common practice. Unless you have something that's really like proprietary, like IP, like intellectual property, most of the time when you talk to investors or you talk to others and you kind of go like, uh I want you to sign an NDA. Like a lot of investors will not sign it. Because they come across ideas all the time, and yeah, quite often like founders will want yeah, especially first time founders will ask for NDAs to be signed, but they'll often meet resistance. And the thing is, at the end of the day, I've been in this startup life for so long that I've seen people completely copy and clone ideas. Yeah, like, but at the end of the day, like, no one's gonna execute exactly the same way as you. So yeah, so yeah, that's definitely something to watch for. So NDAs, yeah, like, yeah, generally if you ask for it, like, yeah, the investors not, a lot of them are not gonna sign it. Yeah, and they'll just like, it's either you pitch me or you don't. Like, yeah.
Okay, you are saying if it's not something proprietary, something so technical,
Mm.
so you don't need NDA in the beginning.
Yeah, and also, oh yeah, so something you can do is um So when you circulate your pitch deck, it's really important to just circulate a pitch that you feel that's safe enough to be forwarded on to potentially even your competitors. And sometimes not even your competitors, sometimes to be forwarded to other investors who invest in your competitors, so they are checking out on behalf of your competitors. So when you share your pitch deck, you want to have a version that you feel safe, that even if that gets read by your competitors is all right. So that's a way to overcome the obstacle where investors are just going like, I'm not going to sign NDA, like, because I talk to so many startups every day, like I'm not going to sign every NDA that ever asked me to. Is to have a different pitch deck. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Here's my last question.
Yes.
As a CEO, should you focus on sales or recruitment?
Do you
Do you get
focus
my
on
point? Sales
mhm.
or recruitment?
Mm.
As a CEO.
Do you focus on sales or recruitment? Definitely sales. Like you, as the CEO, you're the chief sales officer. And everything, and recruitment is sales. If you can't like sell the vision of your company and make it really exciting for people to want to join, especially when you're a startup, you're gonna be fighting for talents who can go to like bigger companies or other more exciting like scale ups rather than your new startup, especially if you're not giving equity or not much equity. Then that gets really hard. So yeah, you're always selling. So be it selling to attract a team member, selling to attract investors, selling to attract customers, selling to attract a strategic partner. Selling is the number one thing that you do every day, all day long. Like, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. I think Clinton was next.
Hello, good day.
Hi.
Or good evening, yeah. So I was gonna ask, what should you consider before picking a co-founder?
Yeah. A few things. I mean, that so definitely a few things that you have to think of. Like one is you can go through like there's like a list of like I don't know like like co-founder interview questions where you both run through. I think that's a good starting point as a first step to run through, like, do you have the same values, the same expectation of how you want the business to go, and if things go wrong. So there's I can try to find like a list of those co-founder, like 50 co-founder questions that you can, or 300, I don't know, like there's like some resources like this out there where you can just run through those questions with your potential co-founder to see if you have complementary, like I don't know, like I guess like expectation values, and if things go wrong, how you're going to manage that. So that's the conversation piece, but ultimately you really need to start working together to get a sense. I've seen many co-founder pairings where on paper they are like the perfect match, but in reality when they start working together, somehow the working style just does not match. Just somehow like one person will irritate the other person just because the way they work is just like not getting along really well. So that's definitely, you want to try working together. And in terms of working together, it's not just the style. Another part that tends to become an issue is also the pace. So quite often, like founders with different pace gets quickly like frustrated. So definitely, like, so communication style, working, the pace of work of progressing, and also another part that I see that tends to lead into issue is if both founders want to be, I don't know, the face of the business, then that could lead to a challenge as well. Often what tends to work well is one founder wants to be the face of the business and the other founder is happy to just like be on the backseat. That's common areas. And other potential areas of challenges is I see that if the founders have family members, like then quite often is like you can have a good conversation with your potential co-founder and you agree on things, and the next moment within that week or that fortnight, things will change because they talk with their family, and whatever you guys have agreed is going to impact their family life, and then they'll come back and want to renegotiate things or change things. So that's something to watch for. So yeah, definitely try to work on stuff together first before yeah. And sometimes people go I think the common advice is like find a co-founder with complementary skills where you both of you have different skills. I find that works well, but then sometimes you then also don't appreciate how much the other person is doing or is getting done for you because you don't know how hard it is, and similarly, because you don't know how hard it is, you might find the wrong co-founder because you actually couldn't tell that maybe the person is not as good for the job that's needed to be done. So that's also a tricky part when you try to find a co-founder with an opposite skill set from you, because you can't tell how good or bad they are, and also you can't tell how much hard work they've put in because you actually don't know how hard it is. Like yeah. So sometimes it can work really well to also have founders with it that's strong in areas that you are strong in as well. It can work well, definitely. Like yeah.
Okay, I want to paint a picture for you. For instance, I'm looking to. I have this great idea for an IT startup here, but I don't know how to code. I'm not a good developer.
Mm.
Know how to do whatever it's necessary. I don't even know what's necessary to achieve the idea. I just know, okay, this idea, based on my experience in the market, it's a need I've identified in the market. And I say, okay, so now, and then I don't have capital to hire a developer. So the best route is finding a co-founder who, well, knows how to code. So is that a good route to take in such,
Yeah, so I think that's often the recommended like route is like, oh yeah, find a technical co-founder, and then bring your idea to tech and to market. I think there are some issues with this approach, even though it's the most recommended approach. What happens is sometimes you bring your idea to market and then the market respond to it, and you might need to pivot, and then your co-founder may not have the right kind of skills, but you have already agreed to share X amount of equity with this person. So that's something that could be tricky. And what could work quite well is like these days you can actually mock up something, so to even like be able to, like, let's say if you use Canva to just design how it will look like, you can already start showing your target market to just get a reaction from them if this is something that will help them. And another thing is to start delivering the solution even without the tech, if you or parts of the solution without the tech, and see that's possible. Yeah, I've known of startups that basically delivered something just basically like a service. So rather than having the tech, they deliver it as a manual service, but with tech it will become automated. So it's not quite the same thing, but they just want to see if that service is delivered manually by human, like will the customer be really happy and even pay for it. So there are startups that actually did this and yeah, managed to just get the initial customers. If you can get initial customers, then you can especially if you can like secure, like get repeatable customers, then you can start attracting angel investors. Then that will really help you to get to the next stage. Yeah.
I was gonna ask about angel investors, yeah, because I think many tech startups look forward to having one of those, especially, well, everyone believes that whatever the idea they have is the best one and is the big one.
Yeah.
So about angel investors, are they really is there really kind of like, will I say, shortcuts or something one can do or one can think in line of to attract them?
Like to how to attract angel investors?
If you wanted to attract, let's for instance, I tech startup, yeah, but for instance, I have this video game that's on Web3 and I want to put on the Web3 blockchain and stuff.
Yeah.
And then the problem is, like I mentioned, I'm not a developer, so I need a developer to come. So this service I can't actually, so I have to go pitch. Yeah. So I can't actually do any manual thing because it's going to be online based. So I can't, that's no way to give the service. But I have to then go pitching my ideas to people and then hope one of them. So is there any kind of like strategy you could use to attract angel investors?
Yeah, so there are two types. I don't know, I mean, it brought like two type of angel investors you can look for at this point, right? So the ideal scenario is you want like angel investors or an angel investor who not just provide the money but also provide like maybe the network or the credibility in the market or the to help you open doors or get you resources. So that's like the ideal scenario, so like funding plus resources and opportunities, but sometimes in other cases you just need the money and then you may not need to find angel investors that specifically like in this space that you're operating in. So on the part where you're saying like let's say a Web3 game, right? So what you can do to show that there's interest, if you can like mock up a website, like a landing page, and just to show like the number of people who will sign up for the wait list for, then that's a way for investors to know like, or if you show your target market like if you show your target market this is what's going to be built and they are willing to like be on a wait list, and then that's already a sign of market validation, like oh, I lost track. I guess okay, so is it Jayla, I think, are you next or is it any?
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Awesome.
Okay. So here's my question. What's the recommended amount of people to run your alpha test? And what set of people you can give it out to on it?
What's a number of people to run your alpha test? Like, I mean, like to be statistically significant, you want at least 30. Like, but often, I think that especially when, for it to be meaningful, quite often, like 30 to sometimes like startups will go like, oh, we have even up to 100. But then like, if you can get at least like 30, that'll be really great. And to ideally will be part of your target market. But I would say even in the very beginning, like potentially explore beyond like the target market that you think quite often like founders have in mind like, oh, this is the target market that my solution is best for, but then you might be surprised, you might discover like an even better market. Like, so in the beginning, like you might also want to test that, like so like 30 would be a good number to aim for if you can. If you're like slightly under like 27, I mean, I think that's fine. Like,
Right. Okay. Okay. So my second question is the other time you mentioned we should know if we're the good fit to develop an idea. So if you found out you're not a good fit to develop the idea, is it that you drop the idea or you look for people who are in that sector to develop it or partner?
So this is interesting. So either you find someone to complement whatever that you're missing. That could be a way. But quite so if you can find someone that to complement, I think that's definitely a way to solve it. But often I do see that if the founder is not the right fit for that idea, they will grow, and then somehow they will just be stuck, and then they'll ultimately have to like stop. I see that happen quite often. Yeah. So quite interesting. So in terms of fit, right? So just to explain more about how to assess for fit. So like yeah, passion is definitely really important because you need that motivation when times are hard. During the roller coaster ride. You need a passion, but you also need the skill set. The skill set to actually create the solution if possible. And the next part is also the network. If you need your initial beta users or your initial like strategic partners to get some credibility for the business, do you have the right context in the right industry in order to get that right? So yeah, so these are critical factors that will make a big difference. Yeah, whether you are on a good fit or not, whether you have the network, the skill sets, and sometimes a very weird thing that I notice, even though it makes no sense, but this is something that I see a lot, is the market respond to you as a founder whether they think like you are the right. So if they okay, I'm trying to think of something as an example. If they see me like a female and I'm wearing pink all the time or whatever, like a Barbie, for example, and then they'll go like, oh, maybe my startup's in robotics, and then they will just kind of look at me and just don't feel convinced. And sometimes the market do you judge like just when they see you physically right away, and they just kind of go, yeah, you feel like you're a founder for this startup, and sometimes they just look at you and they just don't respond. Yeah, so that's something I definitely see as well. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
And is it, how do I pronounce it? I know it's Anita. Yeah.
Anita. Anita.
Anita.
Hello.
Yeah, awesome.
Hello, Silver.
Hello.
Thank you so much for the class. I've learned so much. The question I have is on the idea stage, having an advisory board member. So assuming like in the early idea stage, the Valley of Death region, you don't have the co-founder. Could you like swap that with having advisory board members that could also help you to
Yeah.
grow your product?
Yeah, I think having advisors is definitely really helpful. I think maybe you may not want it to be like as formal as an advisory board. Yeah, I know that people do put it on a pitch deck and then just to make their team look bigger and more credible. Yeah. So you may because also with advisors you have to think about how much equity to give them. Maybe in the earlier days, what would really help more is more having mentors.
Okay.
Because you might want like mentor to help you get unstuck on very specific problems, and it's like problem keep getting unstuck and you keep progressing forward. And then when you have a more clearer path, then you can have advisors to be more permanent part of your business, and then they can be part of the advisory board. So advisors during the early days, something an area they help really well in is definitely opening doors, because like most likely they are highly credible in the industry. So that's more of like more for a different purpose, like to open doors for your startup. Like
Okay.
to
Okay.
give you
So are you
credibility.
saying that for an advisor, an advisory board member, you're supposed to give them equity?
Yes.
Is it necessary to give them equity?
Um, yeah, I think you pay. I think you pay with cash comment. I mean, with salary as well. I think it can be part salary, part equity. But yeah, definitely. I mean, I think there will be advisors who. So it depends on the advisors. Some advisors, for instance, they are trying to also build up their CV. So, for example, they are like, oh, I really want to be known as a sustainability expert, even though they have so far haven't done any consulting in that space. So they're willing to become the advisor for a sustainability startup for free. So if the advisor wanted to, or sometimes they want to become known as a startup like an advisor, because so far they've been maybe advising more larger companies, and they want to like add on their CV that they cover startups as well. So when it's cases where they are trying to build up their CV, or yeah, they're just trying to help, then yeah, they might be happy to do it for free. And if the engagement is quite low touch, or like, I don't know, yeah, once a month for an hour, some people might be happy. And some could like have a limit, like, oh, I'm happy to do this like 1 hour chat like once a month or once every 3 months. But anything more than that, like, you're gonna need to give me equity or like some kind of compensation. Yeah, so they may set boundaries with you as well. Like, yeah.
Okay. Why I'm asking this is because, it's really a very lonely journey when you don't have a co-founder. And sometimes you might have advisors that may be technical or any other aspect of the business. But as you rightly mentioned, I think mentoring, having mentors may be a better fit at the early stages than an advisor.
Yeah, mentor and peers. You'll be
Okay.
amazed. Yeah, so fellow founders, and maybe even like the founders from a different cohort, like earlier. So it's quite like maybe like the earlier cohort or the next cohort coming up, for instance. Like, so just having chats with them will help so much. Like, to get through during this phase. And they will spend time to help you solve your problems, because they have been through it themselves as well, and they have to find a cheap or free way to do it. So yeah, funds are very, very helpful, like, towards one another. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Does anyone has any questions? No. Or any like other challenges? Or it's good. Awesome. Yeah, I'll share the slides, and and if I come across any materials that could be helpful, I'll also share it together, so that there's a lot of free materials out there that's really helpful. But yeah, in the end, it's really the community that you have like around you, like this cohort, like, to support one another, and definitely build and develop your friendship. Through this journey. Awesome. Like, so I guess do I just log off here? I don't know what's the process. So okay. Yeah, thanks everyone. Good night from Sydney. It's almost
Okay,
almost
thank you very much.
almost midnight.
Thank you very much, Sylvia. Thank you
No
very much
worries.
for your time. Thank you very much for the resources you've shared. We really appreciate, notwithstanding it's night time, and then you came back from work and all, but then you still devoted time to seeing this come to pass. Thank you very much. We really appreciate. So we'll leave you now to go get some rest, and we talk tomorrow morning when
Yeah.
you are more free.
Awesome.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. So
Yeah. Thank
whenever
you.
you share the slides, I will share with them on the group.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you very much, and we wish you a good night.
Yes.
Bye.
Awesome. Thanks everyone. Good luck. Thank you. See
Yeah,
ya.
good night. Bye.
Bye.